Vignesh,
Yes.
thank you for being here. How are you, man?
I'm good, Anthony. How are you doing?
I am great. I couldn't be happier right now. I see you're at school.
Yes. I'm in a practice room in the basement of Purnell, which is the drama building.
Yep. All right. Well, why don't we just, kick it right off? What school are you at? Well, let's set the stage. You're studying, you're in your second year. And
My freshman year, actually, at
oh, okay.
Carnegie Mellon School of Drama, and I'm an actor here.
That is right. That is awesome. Hilarious. I thought you were in your second year because time flies. It was only a year ago you got the call.
Yeah.
Meaning to talk with you. Great. So let's talk about that. Carnegie Mellon was what other schools did you audition for? Before you answer, I just want to set the stage for everyone listening. Vignesh is a client of ours, a huge talent, a pleasure to work with, and our friends who are on the faculty at Carnegie Mellon say the same. So we're not just biased. He's really a hard worker and has a great attitude and wants to develop his artistry. So what we're here to talk about today is reversing about a year. How did you prepare for drama school auditions? What are some of the considerations you had? What schools did you apply to? You might have heard some of this on our channel before, but this is Vigneshs Story. So I'm really excited to dive in. So let's rewind the tape. Tell me about, do you remember when you first decided I'm going to audition for drama school?
I remember that exact moment, actually. I was actually in college in the UK studying economics.
Wow.
Finished my freshman year and I went back home for summer break. And it was just one of those nights where I was thinking about what my future is going to look like, what my career is going to look like. It's one of those serious, reflective nights. And when I imagine myself sitting in an office, working with numbers and money, it just didn't sound exciting to me. So when I look back at what excited me the most, what I did with so much love throughout high school and stuff was theater and acting. So that's when it hit me that if I want to be happy in the future, at least for myself, this is the right time to make that move.
Wow. That's some serious move making.
Yeah.
Now, did you have to tell your parents? Like, what was the reaction from your circle?
So, especially in India, where I come from, it's considered highly unconventional to
Right.
go abroad for college to do something so artistic with no connection to any like STEM major, anything academic, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on a phone call with my dad. I remember breaking down because it was from such a honest place. I remember
Uh-huh.
breaking down. I told him about it. He was, um, I was lucky enough that he was okay with it and stuff. But then, yeah, that's how the journey began. And then when I started looking at, oh, what does auditioning look like? What do colleges want? That's when I needed that. Well, I knew that I needed help with this at least
Yeah,
because
well, tell us about that. Like you said, you had performed in high school. So, like before you decided to look into the process of applying and coaching and all this stuff, what experience had you had up to that point?
okay. So in my high school, we had theater as just another subject because I didn't go to a performing arts high school. So whatever experience I got, we used to do productions. We used to put up at least two plays a year. They used to be almost always Indian plays, Indian origin plays, and in non-English languages.
Mm-hmm.
So Hindi or Telugu. So my experience with English plays, English theater was really less. That's the gap I noticed immediately when I wanted to do acting at college, which is why I feel you guys are amazing for international students who don't have the same exposure to American theater or English theater in general. Yeah.
And so you were looking, what was your first thought when you thought about preparing? Like, I need to find monologues, or I need to find a coach, or I need to, like research schools. What was the first thing you were kind of diving into, if you remember?
My first thing was what kind of text should I do? So what monologue should I even pick for myself? Because yeah, that was my first concern. I remember that clearly. Yeah.
I remember the pain of
Yeah, I
knowing.
remember that pain. because it's so easy. It's so easy to go online and search up best 10 best monologues for young men, and you'll get so many suggestions. But how do you pick out which one you want to do, which one resonates with you? You don't have, I at least didn't have so much knowledge at that time to make a decision confidently by myself.
It sounded like you had an artistic instinct, like you have like a proclivity for acting or performing, but not necessarily like, okay, but now like now that the boots are hitting the ground, what do I actually, how do I actually assess the material and how do I find out what fits me well? So how did you did you learn from somebody about what to consider, or did you really just kind of put your nose in the material and find out what hit you?
I asked my high school theater teachers for a few recommendations, and they gave me a bunch of recommendations initially. It was new for them too because nobody from my high school auditioned for acting for college. So it was
What are
they,
you doing? You're messing everybody up. Like,
yeah.
what do you want from us?
So it was new for them, but they were of great help. They gave me a few suggestions. Even though none of those suggestions were what I ended up using, it was still so good that I got to play with that and know, okay, this is what it feels like to do a English piece, an English monologue. So it got my feet up and running at least
That's
initially.
amazing. And
Yeah.
about how early was that in the process? Do you remember
That was
first playing with those English pieces? Like, was it a year before the auditions? Was it?
so I I dropped out in May, and then we started in June, July. Yeah, a year, but slightly less than a year at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who tend to get into these top programs, just I'm telling you and the audience for kind of some context based on my experience, having been around a lot of these students, a lot of us who got into top programs started the journey early, like just the preparation for the auditions, whether it's 9 months to 12 months. That doesn't mean that you have to start 9 to 12 months to get into a top program, but a lot of people who are just like, I'm gonna audition for drama school, why wait?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Nothing holding me back. I think that's a good attitude to have. So you kind of what I call took imperfect steps forward.
Yeah.
You didn't go, oh, I don't know XYZ, so I'm just not going to take action.
Mm.
So credit to you. Now, you said that those weren't the pieces you ended up doing. How did you come across the ultimate pieces that you ended up doing?
They were all through you, through the email.
Oh, what? I really actually don't remember that. So that was not a setup, but that's great.
Yeah, I remember asking you what kind of pieces I could work with, and you sent me this list of this Google Doc with links to a script for each of the piece. I went through all of them. Yeah, I think that's where I found my pieces.
That's awesome. And what pieces did you do? What, if you don't mind sharing?
For my contemporary piece, it was this play called Spirit Control by B. Willimon, and there's this really powerful monologue from this character Tommy. That's what I did for my main contempt. That's what my first go-to, and then my second one would be from an Indian English play called Baked Beans on Toast by Girish Karnad. That was my second piece in contemporary. Then classical, I used to do Benedict from Much Ado About Nothing, and then my second one would be from Hamlet.
Man,
Yeah.
to be or not to be, huh? Wow. A lot of people would be scared to do that. What drew you to that?
Oh, see, that's another thing. I know how much it's dreaded to do the famous ones, but initially I did not know that. So, and that was one I knew was famous, at least as an outsider. Even as I was studying theater in India, I knew what to be or not to be was. So then it seemed more like in a comfort zone, if that makes sense, to just attempt that. Yeah, that was the reasoning behind it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Love that. All right. So you found these pieces, you talked with us, you kind of discovered things, you feel like you're maybe rolling a little bit. Um, Give us a timeline. When did you really feel, if ever, that you were like starting to grow as an artist and that, you were really like, I don't know, was there a light bulb moment? Was there a moment in a coaching session where you really feel like, man, I'm getting better?
Mm. Without hesitation, the first session itself.
Mm,
That the kind of way manner in which I got the feedback was not something I was used to before. I was up on my feet working my monologue, getting adjustments thrown at me. I would be asked questions about the piece in such detail, creating such backstories for everything. I would be in the session talking with a notebook in my hand, writing down all these questions because I do not have answers to them. So I would end the session with knowing that there's so much I need to answer first. So it was immediate after the first session that I got to know that the questions you're asking, I need to value them and answer them to grow as an artist to improve my piece. Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's awesome. One of the things that my Juilliard teachers always said, which is actually, it said that he said that questions unlock creativity. And that's obviously just a bigger sentence than just for actors. It's for all of us as humans, right? Questions will unlock creativity. And so, yeah, we will throw a lot of questions at you and all of our uh, students. So very cool. Let's reverse. Let's talk about schools. How did you decide what schools to apply to? And what drew you to those schools that you applied to?
Mm. So, in all honesty, it all starts off with going online, top 10 best acting schools in the world. I did that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
that's
hide it. I
legit.
did that. You find that list, you sit on that list, you dream about going somewhere on that list. And then I talked to my college counselor in my high school. But again, it was so new to her to recommend what acting school you need to apply
Vignesh, what are you doing?
to. So she
Don't
was a
do it.
person help again. And then I had a fair list, but I wasn't confident enough to go about, oh, this is a good place. This maybe not. This fits best for me. I didn't know how to assess that. But I had a list of, I think, 5, 6 schools that I wanted to apply.
And was that the ultimate list, or did you then add to it?
That was the ultimate list.
That was the ultimate list. Was there any in the UK, or was it all, where were they kind of based? Do you mind sharing them what they were?
And they're all based in the US. Yeah, and it was Juilliard, CMU, NYU, UNCSA, SUNY,
Yeah.
and USC. Yeah, these were the schools I applied.
Okay, got a little West Coast in there.
Yeah.
Man, so exciting. Okay, so you're like on the journey now. You've chosen your schools, you've submitted your applications, you're getting this coaching. Um, were there any kind of setbacks? Were there any doubts that crept in at certain points? Sometimes we call it the dark cloud, where you feel like this is worthless. I'm worthless. My work sucks. I'm not going to apply, like to some degree or another. Was there like a dark cloud or some sort of hesitation and doubt creeping in?
Yes. My biggest source of doubt was always because I hadn't worked with a lot of English pieces before. So that was so I had confidence in my ability to tell a story, but I did not know if I was effective enough in another language to do that. So it was internally, I knew I understood the piece. I knew what's happening. I know the world around me. But when I do it in English, which is a foreign language to me, does it deliver the same way? Does it carry the same emotion? And that used to scare me a lot because that's something I couldn't assess. Yeah, that was my biggest one, which is why these sessions help with that. They take away the fear eventually. It doesn't go away with one session to no, it just slowly dilutes over time, I feel. And at a
Yeah,
point now where I'm comfortable, like English text, English script speaks to me the same way a Hindi script would speak to me. Yeah.
very cool. Wow, that's awesome. I love when you get to acknowledge your own kind of growth. And, it's like you can see where you are now as opposed to where you were. Like, kudos to you. You should be proud of that. And no one else can do that except you, right? You get help. We all get help, but ultimately it's up to us. Um, you're the only one in the room. You got coaching from us, but you're the one that was in the audition room, and it all happened because of you. So let's get to the auditions. I do want to ask you about some international like application, and that process is kind of a beast. But I want to get to the meat here as well. So we'll try to touch on both. You're in the rooms. Do you remember the auditions? Where did you audition?
So mine was all over Zoom.
Right. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, only a year ago?
Yes, it was all virtual. Um, but yeah, I have a lot of good experiences. It was interesting to audition. First, I was scared, nervous, out of my mind. I remember, so the way it works is they put you in this waiting room usually, and then they divide you into a breakout room when it's your turn. And there's an Excel sheet showing you who's going now, who's going to be next, who's going to be next. And as it approaches to your name each time, it's a you're really nervous. You can't describe that feeling, at least for the first round. What I did, it's silly to look back at it. So it's my first round. I'm sitting there. I know that I'm gonna go in 15 minutes. And I know my first monologue is like an emotional piece. So I start looking at like stuff which is gonna make me sad, and I'm getting into the mood and I'm crying on my own. I'm ready for the video to start, the Zoom call to start, and then the call starts and I see a teacher and I'm again smiling. I'm like, hey, hello, I'm Vignesh. And then I dropped out of that zone completely. And then we did the pieces again. It's just funny to look back at how seriously I took it.
Yeah, right. You're like trying to like emotionally prepare, and then you're like, oh, hi, it's just me, Vignesh.
Yeah.
And then you like drop back in. Yeah, dropping in and dropping out is funny, but if you have some practice with it, you just get used to it. Um, so you did those. Was there like a school that really stood out to you? Like, oh, I did really well, or I really bombed that. Do you remember like having any of those experiences?
Oh, yeah, for sure. All the auditions do not feel the same way because on some days you're connected more. I guess it feels different also. You cannot act the same way every single time. So there were colleges. I remember my Juilliard audition, one of them felt really bad, but then I would go on to the next round. With a few, if I knew it was bad, it was off there. Like I knew it was so bad that nothing's gonna happen there. Some auditions feel great, they feel amazing. You walk out knowing that that's the best work you can do as of now. So you're in full belief in yourself. Yeah, it's always different each time. Luckily, most auditions I was feeling confident about the work I was doing.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, what would you say to someone who is like auditioning this year and kind of like wondering, like, how can I control that a little bit more? How can I bring my best work, more consistently?
Hmm. It's so easy for me to say it now that I've passed that stage. But it's the trust you can have in the work you put in. If you walk into the audition room every single time knowing that you put in the work and you know you have it in you, I think that's the best thing you can say to yourself before you step in. Because I feel really strongly that stepping into a room and acting confidently can change stuff entirely versus going in there with nerves, extra nerves, or less belief in yourself. Because you put in so much work if you're at this stage. Just know that it's enough. It's going to show. Trust in that, and that you should be fine.
Man, love that. Agreed. Um, did they ask you, we can talk about CMU now since you got accepted there, and maybe you remember some of those callbacks. Do you remember when you got your name put on the callback list? Like, what was the feeling, and then what did they tell you was going to be next?
So all the callbacks, more or less similar format, but they used to change them up slightly as we went above for the few rounds. There were 4 rounds of callbacks, I think 3 rounds. Yeah. So you finish an audition, you say bye, and then you just wait till you get till you get an email because there's no sort of immediate feedback. So you just hope for the best, you wait for it. But then I remember seeing an email for each round and then the other round and then the other round. And I just knew that at some point the dream had to be shattered at some. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen, but then it just didn't. But yeah, you just wait. You do your audition. You wait for the next thing.
And do they have more faculty as the rounds go on?
There were always, yeah, more faculty, 100% towards the end at least. It starts off more with one, two teachers maybe per each audition room. But I do remember seeing, I think the entire teaching faculty, at least for the last round. Yeah.
And how did that make you feel? Like, at that point, you've obviously been given a lot of positive reinforcement. I don't think we talk about this enough, but talk a little bit about the confidence that builds in you once you get called back once, twice, right? Are you feeling more free in those final callbacks, or are you feeling more pressure and less free?
So initially, as you pass one round and you go to the next one, you know you've done something right. I'll speak for myself. I knew that I did something right, but I didn't know if I could repeat that magic. So I stepped into this next one with a little bit of suspicion. But then you pass another round and you know that, okay, you're doing something right. Something's happening. Just go along with it.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Which is why by the end, even though the entire teaching faculty was there, that's enough to make anybody really nervous. But I was more excited to show my work. It was not nervousness. I was happy. I would have wanted 10 more teachers to be there to see it if possible. That's what I was feeling like.
That's exactly, yeah. I think that's, and it's obviously personal. It's not like everybody necessarily has that feeling, but I'd say 99% of people, all my classmates, like everyone I've spoken with and helped, it's kind of that feeling. Once you get to those final rounds, you've already been told by this school in a way that we love you, and so the idea of having a bunch of people there, it sounds a little scary before you actually do it, but by the time that you've gone through these things, these callbacks, you feel like, man, I'm just playing.
Exactly.
That's great. Do you remember anything they asked you to do that was like any moments of like adjustments or exercises?
Yes, for sure. There were adjustments given to my pieces in the later rounds. And it also always used to be something unique, something fun, something you can play around with. I think for one of my classical pieces, they said, what if you walked out of a cave, or what if it's a dark cave, something like that. So the setting around me was changed into something contrasting to what the actual setting would look like. And then the circumstances sometimes, I think something on the lines of, what if you said this to your father at this XYZ time of day, for example. So you used to get small little adjustments, but I never felt like it was something which was a mistake which I needed to improve. No, it was just something different to play around with again, to play around with, to play around freely with. Yeah.
And, you had only had coaching with us. You didn't have necessarily a lot of this experience prior, where you're just kind of like being thrown little adjustments, but did the coaching help in that regard to feel like I can play with adjustments, because we're giving you adjustments all the time?
Yes, for sure. Which is why the adjustments is the one thing which almost parallelly transfers to the college audition process from the training. All the adjustments, quick adjustments I used to get from you guys, but in these sessions is what basically happens in the audition room too. So when they're doing it, it then doesn't feel too new. You're open to receiving those changes. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's got
It's
to
all
feel good.
confidence. It's all the confidence in that room. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you end the callbacks. You go, you're at home, right? You're just waiting to find out if you got in. How did you find out?
So I was done with my final round. Happy that I got it done. I waited, and then I got an email with the decision saying that I was waitlisted. So yeah. So for me, at least in my eyes, a waitlist it's not going to happen. That's how I used to look at it. So I knew this was not a prospect anymore, and that I was looking at other stuff. But it was one night in India. It was late at night, 9, 10 p.m. I think. I receive a call and it says Pennsylvania on my iPhone, which is too unusual for me. I never get a call from United States, no. So then I lift that call, I go out and I talk, and it was on the phone. I was told that
Oh my gosh, what'd they say?
me. They said, we would love to welcome you to the Carnegie Mellon School of Drama. I thought it was a joke initially.
Oh my God, what did you do in that moment?
I think I just said, thank you. I would love to be there.
You have to say officially yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Did you tell your parents? What'd you do after you hung up?
Oh, I went in and I pranked my parents. I told them they said I couldn't go. They said they called me to reject me, is what I told them. And
That's hilarious.
they started with their, oh, it's okay, it's just another college speech. Then I told them that no, they took me in. So it was a
That
nice, happy moment. Late at night, we were all screaming, disturbing the neighbors. Yeah.
love that. Well, cool, man. This was awesome. I loved going through this with you. I know you've got rehearsal tonight, so I'll let you go. Thanks for taking the time. Um, what, if anything else? I mean, maybe I would love to finish on maybe like a international student thoughts, right? We know the international students have to go through a larger application process. There's just some more sometimes cultural barriers or mental barriers. What advice would you give to international students who want to apply?
It's 100%. The process to get to a acting college, being an international student, is much different. It's still equally stressful. I wouldn't say it's more stressful just because I'm an international student, no, but there's more steps I needed to conquer, especially with the language, with the culture. I didn't know. So I always grew up watching Hollywood films, and I would see the acting be so much more subtler than our acting back home in general. So that again was a big cultural barrier. Is my acting too loud, too indicatey, too expressive? Will American colleges like that? So all of these questions I had in mind. So it's different for sure. That is why I I'm so glad I got help. I'm so glad I got help. And I would encourage anybody who can to get, especially as an international student, you don't know how much it helps. It helps a lot. With the application process, though, it's similar to the American students, but it gets longer when you come to the visa stuff. That's a whole another journey you have to tackle.
Yeah. And we've been really fortunate. Our clients have always been very generous to talk to prospective students who are about to apply. So that's something that we really value, is the relationships we have with you and with others who might be willing to spend 10-15 minutes on the phone with folks who are auditioning and just chat about whatever. So anyway, I hope this was valuable to everyone listening. Thank you, Vignesh, for your time. And yeah, man, have a great rehearsal. What are you rehearsing for?
I'm not in a rehearsal actually, but I'm watching a dress rehearsal. The
Oh, I
seniors are performing their first dress rehearsal for a play today. So
Okay. Very fun. Well, onward and upwards. Tell everybody there we said hello, and have an awesome night, man.
thank you. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Yep.
Bye. See you.